I am Dracula, and I welcome you to my house.
Hey guys, Dustin here. It's time for another Horroritis. So, after multiple requests to review a Hammer film, I decided it was time to make good on a promise I made in an earlier video. I also decided it was time to try out a new format for the videos, so if this doesn't work, be sure to let me know. In 1958, Hammer, who had already been making movies for over 20 years, decided to take a swing at the classic Dracula tale. Now, having already had some success with their take on Frankenstein, they decided to use the same actors to reprise their roles more or less as man and monster. Now, I struggled with whether or not to actually use my regular spoiler tags in this video, but everybody knows the classic Dracula tale, and even though this movie kind of deviates a little bit from that, it's still close enough that if you don't know how it ends, you probably found this channel by accident while searching for medical advice. So, let me go ahead and save you some time. It's exactly what you think it is. It's contagious, and you should probably start calling your exes and have them get checked too. Just another service I provide here, folks. Now, where was I? This movie starts like any other Dracula movie, with Jonathan Harker arriving at Dracula's castle. Only, instead of being there to sell him real estate, like in the original story, he's actually there posing as a librarian in order to kill Dracula. Now, once he's accepted in, he meets Dracula and a woman who secretly begs him to help her escape.
Please, please help me to escape.
Now, it takes a couple times, but eventually he agrees to help her. But it turns out she's a vampire and she attacks him. Luckily for Harker though, or maybe unluckily, Dracula intervenes and Harker's knocked out in the chaos. When Harker wakes up, he's locked in his room and he realizes that he has bites on his neck. So, knowing that he doesn't have much time, he escapes the castle and tracks Dracula to his tomb. After getting inside Dracula's crypt, he sees two coffins, one for Dracula and one for his bride, who he met earlier in the castle. So he gets out his stakes and his hammer and decides to start with the bride. Once he's staked her, he moves to Dracula and realizes that Dracula's missing. Dracula comes in, locks himself in with Harker, and, well, you can pretty much figure out what happens after that. And if you can, it's no big deal, because it comes right back around to it later on. Oddly enough, even though Christopher Lee got top billing for this movie, okay, well, he shared it with Peter Cushing, we actually don't see a whole lot more of him after this. I mean, aside from some grunts and snarls, the only actual lines he delivers are the ones to Jonathan Harker. In reality, I guess that makes this really a Peter Cushing movie and not so much a Christopher Lee movie. We see Van Helsing stopping at the Klausenberg Inn, because in this movie, Dracula lives in Klausenberg and not Transylvania. Just go with it. Van Helsing's trying to track down Harker. The innkeeper, however, wants no part of it. The innkeeper's wife, though, slips Van Helsing Harker's diary, which he had hidden just before going into the crypt.
But your friend was such a nice gentleman. I couldn't.
Van Helsing goes to Dracula's castle where he finds the crypt and finds Harker in a coffin, but no Dracula. He stakes Harker and moves on from there. Back in Karlstad, which is not London like the original story, Van Helsing tells Arthur and Mina of Harker's death. He also wants to tell Lucy, who's Harker's fiancée in this movie, but she's too sick and being treated for anemia, and she's not really up to the news. But it turns out that anemia isn't Lucy's problem. She's actually been leaving the window open at night and letting Dracula come in for a little nighttime neck nuzzle, if you know what I mean. I mean, he's drinking her blood. Mina eventually wants a second opinion on Lucy's condition, and she asks Van Helsing to have a look. He is a doctor, after all. It takes him roughly 3 seconds to realize that Lucy had been fed upon. It was probably the marks on her neck that clued him in. He tells Mina to make sure she locks up the windows at night and fill the room with garlic flowers. Now, later that night, Lucy's freaking out, and the maid comes running in to check on her, and Lucy eventually convinces the maid to get rid of all the flowers and open the windows. So the next morning, when they come to check on Lucy, she's dead.
It was all my fault. She could not breathe. She looked so ill, she begged me to open the windows and throw away all the plants.
Later that evening, the police bring home the maid's little daughter, who claims to have seen Lucy, even though everyone knows she's dead. So Van Helsing and Arthur, go and stake out Lucy's crypt. And when she eventually shows up, they confront her, and later they stake her. While Van Helsing and Arthur are out, Mina has her own run-in with Dracula. So by the time she comes home, she finds Arthur and Van Helsing waiting for her, worried. Arthur gives her a cross and tells her that he wants her to wear it so it'll protect her. It ends up burning her and she passes out, which leads them to realize what's been happening. They decide to watch the house all night to see how Dracula's getting in, or if he's going to show up at all, but they never see him. Although the next morning when they check on Mina, she's almost dead, and they realize that Dracula has somehow duped them. They save Mina with a blood transfusion, a handy trick that's been used in other vampire movies since, but not enough to make it stale. Van Helsing suggests that Arthur goes and drinks some wine to pick him back up, because mixing alcohol with blood loss can never go wrong. I should know. I'm a doctor. No, wait. No, I'm a minister. That's a completely different thing. It doesn't matter, though, because the maid won't go to the cellar to get the wine. Not because she's bad at her job, just because Mina told her to stay out of the cellar. Van Helsing and Arthur rush to the cellar, and they find Dracula's coffin, but no Dracula. It's kind of a theme in this movie. But that's because while they're in the cellar, Dracula's actually kidnapping Mina and taking her back to his castle. They chase him, and by the time they get there, he's mostly buried Mina in the yard. So Van Helsing goes into the castle and gets in a fight with Dracula, and that ends with Van Helsing pulling down the curtains and letting in the sunlight, which ends with Dracula dying in a really cool deterioration scene. Once Dracula's dead, Mina's back to normal. We get a shot of Dracula's ashes blowing away, and then credits. So that's the horror of Dracula. All the most important parts from beginning to end. You don't even have to watch the movie now, even though you really should, because even though it's a movie with a story that we all really kind of know already, this telling is by far the most fun. It could be the humor mixed in with the horror. You wouldn't expect it, but it's there, and it works beautifully, and it doesn't distract you from what's going on. It could also be the pacing, which keeps this movie moving at a steady speed so you don't get bored. That's something the 1992 film could have used. It could also be because Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing absolutely nailed these parts. These guys were two of the best actors ever, and their names alone should be enough to make somebody want to watch this movie. So that's it for this video. I experimented with a new format of just running from beginning to end, not leaving anything out. Well, some stuff, but all the important parts are there. So let me know if this works for you. If it doesn't, we can go back to the old format. That format is still really fun for me. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button because I've got loads more reviews coming for you. And if you want to get a hold of me personally, you can do it in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Facebook and Twitter, both at The Horroritis. Also, if you have any requests, anything that you want to see me review, feel free. I am absolutely open to requests at any time. Also, if you like this channel and you want to help this channel grow, please consider supporting this channel by going to patreon.com/horroritis. There you can donate anything from $1 up for any time period. It's completely up to you, and anything that we get from the Patreon account goes directly back into the channel to help boost production and quality and maybe add some extra cool features here and there. So any little bit helps, and it's all very much appreciated. So until next time, I'm Dustin. This was Horroritis. Thanks for watching.